The doctors, once you get to a certain age, I hate to say it, they will just start to put you on things, and they don't always have any intention of getting you off it. They're like, you know what, just stay on it till you die. And you're like, oh, that doesn't seem like a cure. But I also will get people coming to me and they say between 20s and 40s who have been on, say, for example, Preventative every morning since they were a kid for asthma. That's taking a dose of a pharmaceutical medicine every single day. Now, they might say we've cured your asthma, but I don't class that as a cure. So having to take any kind of medicine, whether it's an allied health or a homeopathic or a pharmaceutical, it's not a cure. You shouldn't need to take any form of prescribed medicine every day. But that's often what it is.
Tell our audience firstly what is tautopathy and to share with us about how you've been using it in your clinic.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Firstly, I'm so...
Today's guest is the effervescent, incredibly generous and totally gorgeous Leiah Golden. We are so lucky to have her right here in Australia. Now, she had an incredible episode on episode 23, which was one of the ones that got us banned off YouTube. So that was a great one. If you haven't listened to it yet, check out episode 23 and also check out episode 127. We got another warning from YouTube for that one as well. So you won't find this video interview on YouTube because we think she might have a black mark against her, but you will find the video for this interview on Rumble. So you can go to rumble.com and type in Leiah Golden and Homeopathy Hangout podcast and it will come up. So Leiah is so incredibly generous. Of course, she is the daughter of the much-loved Dr. Isaac Golden, who is also featured on the podcast. And she's going to be sharing with us today about tautopathy, which is something that she's had great results with in her clinic. I have as well. And it's an option that not many people are aware of. We can actually use homeopathic remedies made from pharmaceutical medicines and then give that to a client while they are on their pharmaceutical meds to help counter any side effects and for various other reasons as well. But it is an incredibly powerful tool that we have at our disposal as homeopaths. So if you would like to find out more about Leiah or work with her or her team, you can visit whmr.com.au. That's for Holistic Health Macedon Ranges. So whmr.com.au. And you can also check out leiahgolden.com. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout podcast, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now our mum and your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and welcome back to what I'm sure is going to be another epic episode with the one and only Leiah Golden. Welcome to the show, Leiah.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
We have allowed Leiah back.
So good to be here.
So funny little story that we have to share. For those who haven't listened, episode 23, Leiah shared on a very interesting topic, which got us banned off Facebook. But it was funny because it was episode 127 as well. I can't remember which exact one, but that was a little while ago. But it's only a year ago they banned us, but we got back.
Yeah.
But so if you haven't listened to Leiah's previous
really?
episodes,
It took you that long to find it.
yeah. So go scroll back to episode 23 and episode 127, and she also talks about her journey. But today she's come on to share some valuable information with us on tautopathy. So I'm just going to keep quiet because we've already been chatting so much before we started recording. So I'm going to keep quiet now, and I'm going to get you to tell our audience firstly what is tautopathy and just share with us about how you've been using it in your clinic.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Firstly, I'm so excited to be chatting to you again. I think you do amazing things for homeopathy, and I love this podcast for homeopaths, for practitioners, and just for the general public, but like for everybody. Everybody loves homeopathy, so you're amazing. So I was really excited today to talk about tautopathy because it's something that I use so much in my practice, and I think everyone probably does do it to some level, like depending on, that's the thing with homeopathy. There's so many methods, homeopathic methods within this umbrella term. And as long as we're following the principle of similars and the principle of minimum dose, essentially it's homeopathy. Now, it's the old school people are like, oh my God, that's not right. But I really believe that. I'm like, as long as it follows those two sort of foundational laws, then it's going to work and it can be part of this homeopathic method. So tautopathy is one method that I use so much in my clinic. And it is essentially what tautopathy is potencies of pharmaceutical medicines. And we were just chatting. I'm not going to call them drugs. I'm calling them medicines because we naturally fall into the habit of saying pharmaceutical drugs. And there's a bit of a negative tag attached to that. Yeah, it's got a negative feeling. And I recently have been working with a beautiful very young person going through cancer and having to do cancer treatment. And I don't want to say the word drugs to him. So I am really being very conscious to say pharmaceutical medicines when I'm talking to anybody, so that because medicine has a really beautiful healing energy, whereas drug is like, ooh, drugs. And so, I'm going to start saying medicine. And we all need to do that, particularly if we're working with children or people who have to stay on these medicines. They don't get a choice. Okay, so that's my big thing. But essentially, that's what tautopathic medicine is. It's homeopathic preparations of pharmaceutical medicines. And there's a few ways that I use them. So I wanted to go through a few today. And I don't use them as my primary mode. So it's not the only remedy I'm giving them. I usually use them as an allied thing, or a sort of like something to support my other remedies. So normally I still will look at miasmatic, I'll do constitutional, drainage. God, I love drainage, like organ drainage. That's like, we need to do a whole talk on that. But then if I'm seeing someone coming in and they're on pharmaceutical medicines, I will often add it in some way. So it's not that you just give this as the single treatment. Now, unless they're very sensitive and they need to just sort of start in a really gentle clearing, then maybe. But I wouldn't normally do it at the same time. So essentially, the way that I use the tautopathy in my homeopathic practice, it's usually about 3 or 4 different ways. So firstly, it could be somebody coming in to see me on a pharmaceutical medicine that they can't get off, because there is a couple that you can't get off. So things such as antipsychotics. Now, people hopefully everyone can eventually get off, but some people, maybe not such a good idea to get off, because there can be really severe consequences for that person, for that client, and maybe even for the wider public. And then there's some medicine. And so they could be on these pharmaceutical medicines that they don't want to get off, like anti-epileptics. There is a lot of people who have gone through cancer treatment and they've come out on the other side cured, but then they've been put on, they're going to stay on sort of preventative treatment, if you like, for up to 5 years. So there is going to be times that people are coming into your clinic, or even the listener going, God, I really do want to get off this pharmaceutical medicine, but it's something I need to stay on. I'm not quite ready. Epileptic medicines, they can lose their driver's license, so you've got to be very cautious. So that's the one category, people who are coming to you who are on a pharmaceutical medicine, that don't want to get off it, but they're having side effects to it. And look, if anyone out there is on something and they're not actually having really negative side effects, there are some pharmaceutical medicines which have very severe side effects and some that aren't as bad as others, then you might not need to do tautopathic medicine alongside it. But a lot of people are on these pharmaceutical medicines and they're having really nasty side effects, or even just a simple side effect. That category of people who will come into your clinic and saying, I've got to be on this and I just want to do something to kind of reduce the severity, particularly because I'm going to be on it for maybe another 30, 40 years. Then the other people will be coming to you saying, get me off every pharmaceutical medicine I'm on. Now, you have to have a moment with them and just say, okay, because as you would know, particularly in people over their 60s and 70s, they could be on 5 or 6 different ones, on your beta blockers, on your cholesterol lowering, on your PPIs for your gut, on anti-anxiety, on fluid retention. The doctors, once you get to a certain age, I hate to say it, they will just start to put you on things and they don't always have any intention of getting you off it. They're like, you know what? Just stay on it till you die. And you're like, oh, that doesn't seem like a cure. But I also will get people coming to me in their, say, between 20s and 40s who have been on, say, for example, preventers every morning since they were a kid for asthma. That's taking a dose of a pharmaceutical medicine every single day. Now, they might say we've cured your asthma, but I don't class that as a cure. So having to take any kind of medicine, whether it's an allied health or a homeopathic or a pharmaceutical, it's not a cure. You shouldn't need to take any form of prescribed medicine every day. But that is, that's often what it is. So I will get a lot of people. Now, I want to do a little note, not just for the prackies, but also for people who are thinking, oh, yeah, actually, I would love to try and get off. I'm going to go see my homeopath, do some tautopathy. It's really important to cover yourself legally. So if you have a client walking in and saying to you, I want to get off this Preventative, or I want to get off this epileptic medication, or I want to get off this antidepressant, that you say to them, first things first is that, look, you need to chat to your physician and talk to them about that you want to do this and get them to start maybe prescribing you the same drug in a lower dosage, lower milligram, and then we can start to wean it out. But make sure you write on your clinic notes that you have mentioned that you said to them. And also for the listeners who are just wanting to get off that pharmaceutical, make sure that you do talk to your doctor and say, what's the best way to get off this? And it really depends on how long you've been on it for, because if you've been on something for 10 years, well, naturally your body's going to be a bit dependent on it. So it's going to take that little bit longer. So that's really important. But for us homies, as you know, it's never the hardcore drugs, and I'm saying drugs this time, it's never the hardcore drugs, it's the homeopathic remedy that caused the demise of the person.
Oh, of course. It's all our fault, not the
it's always the
medicine
herbs.
you've been on for 10 years.
No, it's always the herbs. I think Andrographis was copying it the other day, and apparently turmeric's the next one they're going to go for. And homeopathy, as we know, since Hahnemann's time, although he poked the bear a little bit, but anyway. But since Hahnemann, we've always had a lot of skeptics and a lot of weight against us and our medicine, our prescribing. So you've got to really cover yourself legally. And this is why you've got to have insurance. You've got to be with an association. You want to have a course that gives you the knowledge in not just homeopathy, but pharmacology and pathophysiology. You need to know these drugs, these pharmaceutical medicines, because they are in our clinic every day now. And it's huge. When I remember looking at some stats last year, and I think in 2023, the average PBS, so prescribed funded, so what you can get rebates for, it was an average of 13 prescriptions per person each year over a certain age. Yeah. I was like, that's crazy. Now, look, I probably take that in supplements, I won't lie. And I definitely have 13 homeopathic remedies, but they don't have any side effects. So this is the difference. But yes, going back to tautopathy, so you will get those people who are coming to you who are saying, okay, I want to stay on this drug, but negate the side effects. Then you're going to get the people who are coming to you saying, I want to get off this pharmaceutical. And then I want to go through how I do a weaning process using tautopathy, which is really good. And then the last kind of category will be when you're taking a case and then you see that there's been never well since or lingering side effects from an old prescription. And that could be something really simple as well. That could be, I went to the dentist and I had to get, antibiotics and some painkillers, and I've had this symptom ever since. Or obviously with a lot of antibiotics, all this lingering gut stuff. Steroids, oh God, steroids. Aren't steroids just a whole nother thing when it comes to the vital force? There's you look at these drugs pharmaceutical medicines, like the antipsychotics, and they're so intense and they're so strong. So naturally they're so strong, they're going to have really strong, really yucky side effects. But people look at steroids and they're just so widely prescribed for asthma, for skin conditions, and they don't have, what we would look at as the worst side effects, like these really intense, debilitating side effects. But to the vital force, they are so suppressive. It is so hard to cure a case, as you would know, what a lot of homeopaths will be nodding, going, oh yeah, you've had a client with psoriasis who's been on daily topical steroids for 20 years. I'm like, I'll do the best I can.
It's unbelievable. I just had a follow-up this week with a lady who's in her 70s, and we have done a steroid detox for her because she's had lots over the years. And one of her complaints was that whenever she goes in the garden, she comes back and her skin is just ripped apart from the years of using steroids. It's made her skin paper thin. And so she comes back and there's just blood everywhere. And her follow-up this week, she said, Eugenie, I went out in the garden. I had no nicks, no blood. My skin is so much better. And sometimes I do doubt homeopathy. I'm sorry. I think she's 70. She's had a lifetime of steroids. Well, what's a steroid detox going to do? Yeah. And then clients come back and they tell you this. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it can really, and we need to remember when we're doing these detoxes from the past, and even the weaning is a little bit different, and I'll go through it in a minute, but I don't see that same big return of old symptoms because they're still on it. So it's actually easier to wean someone off using your homeopathic support and doing a little, maybe a binder, like a good zeolite or like some chelidonium 6C, like a beautiful organ drainage remedy. You don't get that same intense return of symptoms that some of these steroids get because they're like, all of a sudden their whole skin flares out. But it's so suppressive of the vital force. And that's what I sort of say to people. I know it just seems like you can get it in the chemist, it's on every shelf, but I do try to avoid it unless it's totally necessary. Unless you're like not breathing or you've got cracked, weepy skin, I will always try to avoid steroids in particular because they're so hard. Their only job is to suppress, and our only job is to move up and like stimulate the vital force. So you've got this like battle, and anyway, they're my arch nemesis in the clinic. I can handle a lot, but steroids are like, they're hard. So the way the first time I want to really go into the first time I heard about tautopathy, I was like, ooh, that's so amazing. And I call it like simple homeopathy. I love anything simple and consistent. It's just my vibe. And it's anything that you can sort of follow, that I can write a protocol from. I love that. Now, obviously, I individualize my cases. I am a homeopath. This is a big principle. But if it can be simple to follow, I just love it. And I say it's simple homeopathy because you're not having to go in and take a case. You're not working out the simillimum. Oh my God, the simillimum. You don't have to spend hours and like going through and working out the miasm, the simillimum, what organ remedies are pretty easy. You just say, what pharmaceutical medicine are you on? And that's it. Or what pharmaceutical medicine did you have a really, a never well since? When were you never been well since taking? So it's very simple to add alongside your prescription. And obviously some prescriptions are very easy. You see a polycrest walk in, like you can see an arsenicum album before they even like start talking. You're like, oh, that's a vibe. But with the tautopathy, it's really beautiful to add on. So don't think that you just do it on its own. It usually does have, and even in your detoxing, I would say you probably still do like a miasmatic remedy, and you still have occasionally the constitutional and some drainage. But this is just a really good little recap for all the homeopaths just to remember how powerful tautopathy is. So firstly, if people are coming to see me, oh no, I digress. Let me go back to when I first heard about it. So I was at uni, so that would have been, I don't know, a little while ago, doing my degree, probably 15 years ago. And I had Anne McFarlane, who's such an amazing homeopath. Hello, Anne, if you're listening. And she was a homeopath, but she was also a nurse. And I think she was working in sort of an asylum. So she was doing mental health nursing, very intense. And she was teaching us about this method. And she had the most intense case that one of her clients from a long time ago was on very heavy antipsychotics, institutionalized, and was starting to lactate a male as a side effect to that pharmaceutical medicine. And that's just not only you on antipsychotics, you're now lactating from this pharmaceutical medicine. And I would say that 20 plus years ago, I would hope that they're a lot better now, but probably back then they weren't as good. And so I think she was studying homeopathy at the time. She made a potency, or potentially got a potency from one of our pharmacies, and gave it to him in a 30C half an hour after taking his thing, and it stopped. And I was like, wow, I can't wait to try this on everybody. And so, yeah, naturally, as soon as I started seeing cases, I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. So I started off doing tautopathy very early on in my career, and I've had amazing cases. So for one, look, that's what I normally do, a 30C. I do it in a 30C. Occasionally I need to go up. Like I had a beautiful client who was on her, 5 years of post-cancer preventative treatment, and the pharmaceutical medicine she was on was just giving her really itchy legs. And she was like, they were driving her insane. She came to see me for something else, but I said, let's just give you a potency of this. Now, you can pretty much get most potencies. I use Martin and Pleasance, our Melbourne lab. I think we're so blessed to have a lab in Melbourne. I'm like, I love you guys. And they're all so beautiful there. So they will normally have most potencies, or they will try to find them. But I also do have a double well radionic machine. Yeah. And I won't get into radionics because that's a whole talk on itself and a little controversy, the black box, as everyone calls them. But they work. They work. Simple as that. People say, how does homeopathy work? It just works, and so do radionics machines. But you always have to remember with radionics machines, they don't last as long. So hand-succussed remedies so ones that you get from pharmacies or, well, if you hand succuss your own, which I don't think anyone has time for that, then they can last 10 years plus. But radionics are only a year or two, and then the energy dissipates because of how it's made. Although, it's funny, people say, oh, remedies last 20 years. And I'm like, do you really want to have little sugar pills after 20 years? Like, I think just get some new ones. Maybe like restock after 5 to 10 years. But yes, they can last. So just keeping in mind, radionics is great for if you can't source that pharmaceutical medicine. You can just make it in clinic, but with the double well machine. But I always prefer to get hand succussed because they do last a lot longer. So this client came in crazy itchy skin, gave her the 30C potency. Within 2 days of taking it, completely gone. And I always say take it half an hour after, but you have to work with your clients and get compliance and be realistic. And if that half an hour is too long and you keep forgetting, take it 15 minutes after. Take it an hour after.
I'm so naughty. I tell my clients to store the two together and take them at the same time. And it works.
You are so naughty.
I know, rebel. It's just otherwise people don't take it.
They just forget. Yeah. I went on my training of half an hour, but it's getting shorter.
Mine's gotten shorter as we go half an hour. Now it's like take it at the same time.
Yeah. It's all about compliance.
Because we're clinicians and we have busy practices, we get to get our clients to try things and we see the results because they come back and you're like, oh, okay, that didn't work. And I've actually found that it still works. And now I'm just take it.
It makes so much sense as well to do it.
I mean,
but I'm going to stick with my half an hour.
Okay, good. We'll do that.
We'll do that. But as we both know, it still works. But I will always try to set a time. I'll just say, take it. I always say half an hour, but if that's not working, take it 15 minutes. It's like any remedy. They're like, oh, I keep forgetting to take it. I'm like, well, just take it when you remember. I don't care when it is. If you've just eaten a burger, take it anyway. You know what I mean? I'd rather you take it than not take it, right? So with that client, one was interesting. She managed to stay on that for a year and a half, the 30C daily, and she'd just come and top up with me. And it worked every single time. And she knew because every time she'd run out, I'm like, just when you run out, just sort of leave it for a week or so. I always like people when they finish their remedies, leave it for a week or so, unless it is something very serious that we need to keep you on. Just so I can see if you still need the remedy. It's the same as supplements. Do you still need to be taking that all the time? Do you still need that herb? Do you still need that daily drainage support? A lot of the times your vital force has lifted up and you don't. So I will say that. But with her in particular, she came back and we had to move her to a 200C. And she's now been on that for a good year or so. And we're hoping that she's now going to be getting off the pharmaceutical medicines. So we're waiting for the doctors to give her the all clear.
Amazing. I just have to share this analogy that I came up with literally this week. It's like training wheels, It's like the training wheels are like the remedy that we're using alongside. And then now we take the training wheels off and we go, okay, can you ride by yourself?
Oh, I love that.
Not yet. Okay, let's put the training wheels back on. Okay, you need a little bit longer. Take it off. Oh, yep, a little bit wobbly. Oh, no, maybe, there you go.
That's beautiful. I love that. And it's funny because my daughter, I'm teaching her how to ride a bike because I'm taking them to Rottnest Island in October.
Oh my God.
I said, yes,
it's so fun
I will be hopefully visiting someone up there. And I'm taking him to Rottnest Island. I'm like, you have to learn how to ride your bike around the thing, but I'm not putting her wheels back on. I'm like, we're doing this, sister. We're going for it. So I am like pushing her out into the world. So yes, but that's such a good way to do it because it's true. You don't want to, like the same as I said, when general practitioner prescribes a Preventative to take every single day for the rest of your life, come on, that's not a cure. You need to be saying, let's work at the causation so we can stop the prescription. It's the same with the homeopathics. The end goal is to just raise your vital force to a place where you don't need to take anything at all apart from the odd acute or, a little bit of supplementation if your diet's off. So that's where we should all sort of aim for. So yes, that is the one way that I do it. 30C, half an hour, or even 1 minute after. And then the other way that I will do, and that's for people who need to be on things long term, I'll just do that. Then what happens, then I'm going to segue into how I do the weaning process. And I love this. And I've had really good, I'm like knocking on wood 3 times. Just if anyone hears, so no one's coming in the door. It's just me. I'm too superstitious. It's true. And so I have been doing this with a lot of medicines. Actually, I've got a few people off their preventers. I've got a lot of people off anti-anxieties, antidepressants. I don't touch antipsychotics. Like, I know I should, but it's a really tricky one. You need to be working with their health practitioner. But, when people come to me on antidepressants and they're ready to get off. So I've had a lot of success with this weaning without them getting the rebound. Okay. Can I tell you how I do it?
Please do. Please do.
Everyone might be doing this. I'm like, they're like, Leiah, we've been doing that for years. But I'm like, for me, no one taught me this. So I love it. And so, I was like, yeah, Dad, why don't you teach me how to do this? But anyway. And so what I do is I will do the same protocol, that tautopathic medicine, 30C, after taking your pharmaceutical medicine. And then as I start to wean off the milligrams, I always will go, let's get you down to the lowest milligram of pharmaceutical. And the whole time I keep taking, the whole way through this process, I do not stop taking the tautopathic medicine at all. So I wean down to the lowest milligram. And then we start to space out when we get to the very lowest milligram, like 2 milligram, half a tablet of a 5, whatever you can do. Then we'll start to do every second day. And as to how long you need to stay before going to the next step is about being stable. So you can't just say, let's do every second day for 2 weeks, then we'll move to twice a week for 2 weeks. No, you have to say, let's keep you on every second day until you feel stable, that you're symptom-free or sensation-free. It's not always like a true symptom. Sometimes it's a sensation that they're getting an aura of a migraine, or they're getting this, or they feel like their genital herpes is coming back, or they feel like there's a bit of anxiety, or whatever it could be, whatever the pharmaceutical medicine is. So sometimes people will stay on that for not just 2 weeks, they'll stay on it for like 2 months. And then they'll be like, okay, I'm ready. But remember, when you're weaning, don't take them off the daily dose of the homeopathic potency, because that helps to keep them stable. So what I find, normally you only take it after you take the pharmaceutical medicine. When I'm weaning, I keep you on it the whole time. So you're still taking a daily dose every day. Then once you're stable at that lowered dose, then I move you just every second, twice a week. And then we might do that for a month or so. Then we'll move to once a week. And then eventually we stop all the pharmaceutical medicine when the patient is ready. Or if for listeners, when you're feeling stable and like, okay, you know what, I'm ready to just stop this. But remember, the whole time we're taking the homeopathic remedy. And then I wean people off the homeopathic. So I don't just stop that cold turkey either. I actually wean you off that. And that works beautifully, like really beautifully. Some people do it really quickly because they're like impatient. They're like, no, I want to get off this drug. And they'll just do it within a month. And I love that. Obviously, that's great. And then but I tell people to take their time with it, because also behind the scenes, I'm doing nutrition, I'm doing diet changes, I'm doing, lifestyle modifications to help with stress and exercise. I'm doing some drainage work and I'm doing some constitutional work. So while the drug is giving them what they need and keeping them at this certain place of health, I guess, I'm behind the scenes really like healing the terrain, fertilizing the soil and getting the vital force really strong again, so that when they wean off that pharmaceutical medicine that's been doing an action for a long time, stimulating blocking hormones or stimulating an organ or whatever it may be doing, the body gets very dependent. So yes, I just very slowly will stop that. And it works beautifully.
This is one of the many, many things I love about you is how generous you are with information. But I have to say your dad is as well. He is one of the most generous people when it comes to information. Like, I'll never forget, maybe 7 years ago, I emailed him and he emailed me the homeopathic immunization, this thing that he sends out. So I didn't have to create it from scratch. He let me use his one and just put my name on it. I'm like, who does that? But then as you're sharing this, exactly how you're doing it, because I think as homeopaths, we like to keep information to ourselves for many various reasons. Because, sometimes I think, I'm doing it this way, but maybe it's wrong. So I don't know if I want to talk about that. But how you're doing it is exactly how I'm doing it, how I do it as well. With,
I love
tweaks
that.
And things. And, but very similar. I keep thinking, I want to say this because I'm scared that I'll forget, but you shared your persistent cough mix, I think in the second episode that we did. And I copied your mix. And
I love that.
The remedies.
Did it work?
Well, and then I created a combination remedy, and I have been selling that to my clients. So I have financially benefited from the incredibly generous information that you shared on that podcast. And my clients have benefited. And I can't even tell you how many people have said in our closed Facebook group how that remedy has helped them. And you're doing this again today, where you are just sharing from such a generous space exactly how you would do it. And I don't even know how we can properly thank you. And you're not even done, because I know there's loads more coming, but I'm like, I'm so
try
scared.
not to go for too long.
No. Well, we've got 2 recording sessions today. The listeners won't know. We're going to split them in 2 and you'll think it's another day. But you are so generous, Leiah. And so before we do anything else, I just want to thank you with all my heart how beautifully you have laid this out, because it is making such a difference in the world for people who are just like, how am I ever going to get off these drugs? And in a lot of cases don't even know that there is an option, the medicines. How am I ever going to get off these medicines? And they might not even think that there is an option to, that there is a way.
Yeah.
And so to get this roadmap that you have just laid out for us is going to be a huge sense of relief for listeners, for the general public, but also for homeopaths. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Made my day. No, of course, you've got to share, because I love hearing what works for other people. That's how so many of us, and we're like, oh, I can't wait to go home and try that. Not always on the kids and the husband, but like go into clinic and use it. So no, and I only share things that work for me. I don't share my failures. So I won't tell you about those, because we all have those. The same way. And it's funny when homeopaths have, a remedy that doesn't work. Now, the best thing about homeopathic medicine, the worst outcome is no outcome. Occasionally there can be aggravations. We underestimate the sensitivity of a client or the underlying pathology, and we're like, we're so sorry we gave you that rash, or we just underestimate someone's sensitivity and susceptibility. Sometimes it all happens, but a lot of people are sort of like, I think a lot of homeopaths, if their remedies don't work, they really take it to heart and feel bad. But I'm like, hey, a lot of pharmaceutical prescriptions don't work either, and they just keep giving you the next one. So don't feel bad about it. Just try something different and let your clients know that too, because that's really important. There's always this sort of misdemeanor, this, thought that, oh, look, if we just tried the pharmaceutical medicines, they would work, but we're going to give every natural thing a go. They don't always either. So we need to know, but we need to work alongside pharmaceutical medicines because they're not going anywhere. And we need to be able to cater to our clients who are on a lot of them, because that's what's coming in now. And so many people with cancer. Can I touch? Am I allowed to talk about cancer? I did hear.
Yeah, of course. No, we had
one of your listeners. Okay,
go for it. Yeah.
I'm like, look, obviously we are not primary practitioners, like TGA note. We are, disclaimer, we are not primary practitioners, so we only do support work. We would never in Australia treat cancer. You need to go to India for that. But we definitely do, or South America or a lot of other places. We do support work. So we will support you alongside your treatment. And I would say to people who are listening, who maybe are going through a journey with cancer and they're like, I don't want to do any treatment. It's totally up to you, but you need to be aware that the homeopathic practitioner, we do have some legal restrictions and we are allied. So we are not primary practitioners. We are not people who treat cancer.
I think that was a good enough disclaimer, Leiah. You're good.
Now
you can go for it.
Now I'm going to go. And so essentially what I do with people who are on radiation and chemo treatments is I normally do blends. So what I do is, and they just have to tailor. So I've gone in and got almost every potency of a lot of the chemo drugs, what's available. There are some chemo drugs that they do in 3, like they're a trio in the one protocol. So you can just get those potencies. I'm still using the 30Cs, but I will add a lot of remedies. So I'll put in the radiation mix, I'll put in arsenicum album for the burn. I'll put in cantharis, put in a bit of nux vomica to help the liver. I'll do radium brom, obviously. So I'm working it out, what works. With the chemo treatment, it's really interesting because you can give them just the generalized one. So you're doing potencies, very low potencies. I do like a bit of chelidonium, maybe do cocculus if they're getting a lot of dizziness. It depends on what the treatment does, because some people are getting, really intense diarrhea and vomiting, and other people are getting more vertigo. And, so you do have to tailor it a little bit. And I find I normally get people to do 1 round and then report back to me what symptoms they had, and then I'll tweak it. And I just say do it very gentle. And nothing is going to stop the nausea and the ill feeling from chemo because they are poisons and they're very strong because they have a very big job to do. So you're never going to be able to rid someone of their chemo nausea and vomiting and sickness. It's also the body purging out poison, yeah? So we also are like, oh, we respect that body, like, let it come out. But it certainly takes the edge off it and it can really help with the mental, emotional side of it. So what I do is I sort of have like a blend. And I can't give you the blend because it does tailor. It's different for everyone depending on their age and depending on the severity and how often they're doing their treatment. Some people go in once a week and some people are going in 5 days for every 3 weeks. So you do need to individualize. But what I also do is I'll then look at what the worst symptom for that person is. And if it's, say, really bad diarrhea and vomiting, I'll also give an arsenic amalgam 1M. So they'll have their blends, which has got the homeopathic, tautopathic remedies of those cancer drugs to help sort of clear them through. But then I also will give them just acute remedies in very high potencies, and that works beautifully, I find. So going to your 1Ms, because it's so dynamic, like love you 6Cs and 30Cs, but like when we're talking about this, we need to do a little bit higher, and just the anxiety of vomiting all the time and not feeling so sick. So I find arsenic amalgam is an amazing remedy for after. But I think, what's it made out of? It's made out of a really intense poison. And I know people use cadmium and all different ones. But yes, that one is a little bit more individualized, but I get so many great results, particularly with the radiation blend, like having those and it's so simple, like cantharis, but we all know what that's made out of, right? So anything that's got that burning sensation, it's going to really help, and it just takes the sensation. And I have to say, nearly everyone who I've put on that really simple, there's only like 4 or 5 remedies in there, have all reported back to me that they didn't even get that really burning sensation or that sort of discoloration in the skin. And I just love that. Anything to help someone going through cancer treatment, right, is just amazing.
There is so much of that. For those listeners who don't know, cantharis is made from the Spanish blister beetle.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Not everyone does know.
Yes, not everyone does know, of course. So, yes, that's really beautiful. Now, the last way that I would use them is like yourself doing our detox protocols. So, it's for people who have to stay on things. It's for people wanting to wean off their pharmaceutical medicines. And then I will use it a lot when I'm seeing it in clinic as a never well since. And it will be a detox, an antibiotic detox. It will be like a steroid detox. Oh my God, the list goes on. A really interesting one. And I usually will do the ascending, that sort of tons version, which I do go 30, 200, 1M, 10M. Like, I'm so classic. Like, I'm very predictable. Anyone could predict what I'm going to do. I think the girls who dispense for me would be like, here we go again. They almost like know exactly what I'm going to do. But I have very set protocols too. So I do try to make life easy, because sometimes if you can't see a client if you're booked out for a month or for 6 weeks and you can't get that client in, but you know that they need a really quick detox they've had a really bad pharmaceutical reaction, you can just give them that detox, do a very quick, like 5-minute chat, give them a very gentle detox. And then by the time you see them, you can really start your prescribing. You can go into your constitutionals and that. So I love to do that for people if I know I need to do a little bit of clearing and they have to wait for ages. And I'm like, oh, you feel bad. So you're like, okay, let's do a little bit of groundwork. Like, let's clear out, maybe do a little bit of binding, maybe do a little bit of your drainage. And then, some phytolacca 6C, God, that remedy is so magical. And chelidonium, like those basic drainage remedies are amazing. So yes, I will do that. And then obviously one of the detoxes that is pretty intense and I don't know if you've noticed this, is the oral contraceptive pill detox. Holy moly. I can't believe I said holy moly. I'm turning into my mum. It is so intense, some of the reactions that women are getting. It just throws not just their hormones, like their whole mental health out. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. So I normally would be doing, it's very Tina Smith's, like twice a week for, on one potency, twice a week for 2 weeks, and then move to the next and ascend up. But sometimes you need to drop it to just once a week, because if people are, and I always write that on my protocols too. I make sure give them a little chart that they can tick off. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of emails. I can't remember what it was. So I'm like, just give them a little chart that they can tick off each dose, but make sure you write a little note on that. If you're having a big aggravation, you don't need the remedy. So if you're having a big aggravation, the remedy's working. It's doing something. It's having an action. So don't keep throwing remedies at it. Just let it settle. And then, hey, to see how you feel. Sometimes when you let it settle, you're cured. Other times you let it settle and you're sort of back to where you were and you need to keep moving. So yes, I do always have these like very set protocols. I love using Polybal Plus or Poly IG. So, these kind of remedies are going to real big organ stimulators and detoxes and clearers. And of course, who doesn't love a bit of Thuya or Syphilinum at the start of each week just to kind of clear it through. So yeah, the protocols are great and you can make them so simple and, give them to people even before your consult.
I have another little analogy that I like to use because when I'm doing these detoxes, I like to, we want to empower our clients with information because we're not there 24/7 so that when we need to explain to them when they need to stop a remedy because we're not there. And sometimes they've had an aggravation, they just keep taking it because they don't know that they need to stop. But this is a good visual, so you'll have to watch on Rumble. Leiah's stuff doesn't go on YouTube anymore.
I've been bad.
I'm pointing for anyone just listening. I'm pointing my finger and I'm just kind of like poking my shoulder. I feel like every time you're giving the remedy, it's like you're giving the vital force a little poke.
Yes.
And so it's like, hey, you need to like heal yourself. You need to heal yourself. And then if you give it a poke and your vital force goes back and goes, I know what to do, leave me alone, then you stop poking it. You're not going to keep poking it. It's a good analogy because I'm a mum and how our kids like go.
Oh,
like,
yes.
leave me alone. Well, that's the analogy that I use.
That's
so every
so
time
good.
you're giving a dose, you're like giving the vital force a little poke. And then the vital force needs to talk back and say, I've had enough, leave me alone now. So then you don't keep poking it with more remedies. You just stop. So that's
I love
how I explain it to my clients so that when that happens, they're like, okay, I need to stop. And then,
do you want to hear my explanation?
Yes,
of how
I do.
I do it. I love how everyone has their own little explanation of this. So I say the vital force, imagine just like a pond that just has a nice gentle ripple. That's your vital force. That's what we want to be. Now, when we're giving a remedy, we're like throwing in a pebble and it makes movement. It makes waves. Now, when the waters are really chaotic with an acute condition, and that's what happens. The vital force is throwing off all these symptoms. You need to throw a lot of pebbles in to kind of match that. But if you throw in a pebble or a rock and it actually creates a big wave and there's a lot of symptoms and you continue to throw in rocks, you're going to make that beautiful, gentle, rippling effect chaotic. So you need to just one pebble at a time.
I love that.
But if there's a lot of chaos in that water, you've got to use a lot. It's like if someone's got a hardcore fever or, for example, for people going through chemo, if they're straight back from their treatment, straight home and they're vomiting and having really intense symptoms, you've got to give that dose every 10 minutes. Give that arsenicum album or 1 every 5 minutes until it calms because that's what their internal waters are looking like. That's what their vital force is like, chaotic.
I actually think that is the bigger downfall of homeopathy rather than getting the correct remedy. I think when it comes to general home prescribing, because people don't know how frequently to give it. And that does take a little bit of like, I don't want to say intuition. It's more kind of like understanding your body and understanding your vital force. And the reality is people don't know what health or healing or true health looks like. And so they don't understand how their bodies work. They're not in tune with it. And so when you try
the vital force works.
Yeah. And also being in tune with, if I've taken a remedy, how is my body responding to that? And we all know that because clients come back for follow-ups and they're like, oh, the remedy hasn't done anything. And I'm like, oh, well, this has changed. This is how you said you had this for 10 years. You don't have that anymore. So something has changed. So I think and I'm going off track, so I hope you're keeping your train of thought.
Go off track.
But I have been having a lot of this conversation where I think the number one skill that we need to teach our kids these days is listening to your intuition, because AI is getting more and more advanced. You already don't know what's real or what's not, but it's going to get worse and worse to the point where you are not going to know. People are going to be calling you saying they're your mum. People are going to be doing things, saying things. You're going to see things on TV and you're not going to know what is right or wrong. Yeah. If you don't, you need to follow your intuition. And so if we can just get back to that point, if you can just listen to your body. So if you're giving a remedy and, symptoms are really intense and you can feel in your body, okay, I need to dose this more frequently, that's going to be so helpful for you. But that's the thing that I find really interesting. You try and explain this to people and they kind of strike a blank.
Do you know how I say it very simply? Because like exactly what you're saying, the vital force will always get better before the symptom. And so this is very simplified, but I think it's working. So the way I explain it to people to keep it very simple so that they know, is the remedy working? Do I need to slow down on the remedy or do I need to keep going? Because the first thing that's going to improve is the vital force before the physical symptom. Because remember, the disruptions happens in the vital force, which is obviously the brain and the nervous system and that energy. So that's where the disruption first happens and that's what's going to get cured first, then your physical expression of that. So I always say, look for appetite, mood, sleep, and energy, because that child might still be covered in a rash or still coughing, but all of a sudden they're eating again, they're sleeping again, they're running around happy, and their energy's back on track. Then you can start to slow the remedies down. So it doesn't mean stop them, like keep on them. But yeah, I always try to reiterate that you've got to look for the vital force getting better before you can say whether a remedy's working or not, because the symptoms could take another week to finish. Like, in something like, say, whooping cough, they could take a couple of weeks to finally clear that cough, although us homies can do it pretty quickly. But, as long as that person is good, I don't care if a baby's got a bit of eczema. If they're energy, mood, sleep, and appetite is good, I'm happy. I don't care if, we're all skin obsessed in this world, but if you've got some skin thing, as long as your vital force, those vital signs are good, that's what I really go on. So, and that tends to work. I find people are going, okay, let me just look at the kid. Yes, they're still coughing, they're still snotty, but they're eating, they're sleeping. So, the remedy's good. I'll drop it back to 3 times a day until the symptoms are gone, and then I'm fine.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Simple, simple homeopathy.
Definitely. We need to explain that a little bit better to home prescribers, I think.
So they I need to do it.
Yeah.
Like we need to write. You need to write a book, Eugene. You've got all this free time. Oh, you know what it's going to be called? Simple Homeopathy for simple people. Oh. No, for me. I'm joking. It would be Simple Homeopathy because that is just like as much as that's what I love. I just find it so easy to use, and I love Polycrest. There's so many amazing remedies, but I'm like, I just love my Polycrest. But getting back to tautopathy, because I know we could just go so on an adventure, they are pretty much the main ways that I will use it. But the one thing I wanted to also say is when I'm clearing out from, if it's something from like, a pharmaceutical reaction from like 20 years ago, I will sometimes jump from 30 to 10M because I'm never going to start at 10M. That feels a bit wild, a bit like we're going wild, homeopaths gone wild. But I will definitely sometimes, if they still got this lingering symptoms, if they haven't got the lingering symptoms, yeah, you can go high and just cut and clear. But rather than always ascending through, and actually I stole this off Dad. Thanks, Dad. He's too busy to do anything these days, so it's fine. But I would always do that 30, 200, 1M, 10M. And then when there's so many different pharmaceutical products that we were like, let's just go 30. And if they don't react to the 30, if they're having like a good response or just a quick clearing, like a little bit of an aggravation followed by a quick amelioration, if it comes and goes within 24 hours, I keep dosing. It's only if it comes really intensely with 24 hours and doesn't go within 24 hours, that's when I'm like, hold down, stop poking the body, stop throwing pebbles in the pond. That's when I will stop it. But often to get through these detoxes a bit quicker, because you can have like so many. I'll go 30, say twice a week for 2 weeks, and if all good, jump to 10M twice a week or 3 times a week for it, depending how long you need it. And then that way you can get through them a lot quicker. But if they react to the 30, they need to call you and get the 200 and the 1M, and they need to go slowly.
I have had some big aggravations with clients as well from all sorts of pharmaceutical medicines, and I've had to do water dosing. So I'll get them to put 2 pillules in a glass of water, stir 10 times, then take a teaspoon of that as your dose and throw the rest out. And they always look at you like you have just lost the plot. But sometimes even a 30C is too much for them, and you have to start them with it water dosing a few times, and then they can take the remedy as a dry dose. But so interesting, hey?
No, it's true. Yeah, I do a lot of water dosing. Even olfaction, that's when people really look at you like you're weird. You're like, just take the lid off and just have a really breathe out and then breathe in like a big sniff in for like, and it can't just be a sniff. That's not olfaction. It has to do it. And Even some super sensitive clients can do that. But yes, I love the water dose, and I will often do that where my kiddies, where there is some aggression, some violence, they're very sensitive mind kiddies. So, a lot of children on the spectrum of different levels. They are just, kids on the spectrum, I just say their sensitivity is on the mind. We all have, our sensitivity lies differently. Some people it's in the gut, some it's on the skin, sometimes it's in the heart and the chest. For some poor people, it's in the mind, and that's that real susceptibility. They don't get, all the gut issues or the allergies, but they get this disruption of the mind, and it's so sad. But those kiddies, I really don't push too fast. Like, I will stay on that 30C till I no longer see aggravations, and then I'll move up to my 200, because they can really disrupt. And for all the parents who have kiddies on the spectrum, you're like, yes, please, let's just go slow, because it can really, that the body detoxes in the mind as well. And so you do see this flare up of behaviors, and it's not nice for the kiddie, and it's definitely not nice for the family. So sometimes going slow is good. Low and slow.
Now, you have covered a lot. Is there anything else that you want to add in here for our listeners or for our homeopaths about tautopathy? Have we covered most of it?
I think that I have. I think it's just really accepting that so many of our clients are on pharmaceutical medicines. They're coming in. We're not just getting, an allergy or stressed out. It's such a big picture. So really know your pharmacology, know your pharmaceuticals. Do a little bit of Googling if you need to. Get out your MIMS. Is it MIMS? Get out your MIMS book. Get out your old textbook from uni or your pharmacology textbook, and kind of understand them a bit better, because you'll see what the side effect picture is, and you'll see what is your client's picture and what is the drug picture. Oh, I said it. What is the pharmaceutical medicine picture? And so it's really, it's important that people kind of understand them a little bit, because people are going to come in, trust me, they're going to keep coming in to you with all of these medicines. So it's nice to feel as confident as a practitioner, to know what they're actually on. And then when it comes to people saying, I want to take this off, make sure you cover yourself. That's a big thing. We need to, stay TGA friendly, stay happy in practice.
Play nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Leiah, where can people get hold of you, and what sort of other things have you got? I mean, I'm waiting for this simple homeopathy book to come out.
Oh,
but
yes,
in the meantime,
have
you got any other courses? I know you've got an incredible clinic with practitioners there. Like, where can people get hold of you and work with you and learn from you?
Oh, that's so nice. So I do have, we have I'm running my dad's little first aid course, which is a correspondence course. So that's the Australasian College of Hahnemann Homeopathy. That's what he wrote like 30 plus years ago. So I just do really basic. It's not a prescribing. It's not formal qualifications. It's for people who want to do correspondence. So what that means, it's not recorded videos, it's books. It's reading and written work. So very different. There's a lot of courses that have the recorded content, and that's amazing. And my dad, Isaac Golden, in case people don't, also I should say Dr. Isaac Golden, in case people don't know who my dad is, Dr. Isaac Golden. So he's done some recordings, and he does amazing stuff. He's got a lot of recordings. But this is the old school correspondence. You got a Materia Medica, you got a Boriki, you got a Dwale, you're going to use them, and you've got to actually do repertorizing, which is so old school and slow, but amazing. And I tell you what, you really learn homeopathy. So we have that little thing, which I love, which is really fun. But my clinic is Holistic Health Macedon Ranges. We're in Sunbury. And we have 3 of us who are working, Gabrielle Brody, Kate Lambrick, and myself. So that's really nice. There's always somebody here to answer questions. And our website, which is the www.whmr.com.au. And so, you can find a lot of stuff about the clinic and little products and things like that. And then I have my own website, which I'm about to just start working with Dad, and I'm going to just basically steal a lot of his content. And we did agree to this. And we're going to kind of I want to really join our things together. And that's got a little bit of that's a very different focus. Holistic Health Macedon Ranges is very much just like this very general hub of homeopathy and learning and byproducts. Leiah Golden Homeopathy, which is my private website, that is going to be a little hive of homeoprophylaxis. And I'll leave it at that.
Awesome.
But yes, or you could, if you want to email me, you could email me directly at info@leiahgolden.com. So you can email me anything and inquiries. And with Prakis, I'm always happy to share my protocols. Just don't send me, like everyone, especially clients. And I'll say this for all listeners who are like, oh, I want to go see this homeopath. Don't send them a novel. Like, keep it to like 2 paragraphs. We don't need to know your history. We just need to like keep it to dot points because you'll get a really quick reply. And then we want to talk to you. We would do a discovery call or do something like book in for an acute if you're not ready to go for the whole thing, because these huge long emails, sometimes they get skipped over because we don't have time to read them.
They definitely get skipped over. It's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, that also tells, as a homeopath, it also tells you a bit about the remedy that you probably need to give this person.
We're already putting notes in your file before we send you. But no, it's
in a good way.
I love people to know. Just send quick little dot points or any inquiries and you'll get a really quick response. You send a really long email, it could take a bit longer to get a response.
I'm just so glad I'm not the only one who
Oh, we all think the same thing.
I think we're just all so busy. Like, it's just unbelievable sometimes. So,
it's a blessing though, isn't it? It's humbling. It's humbling to be busy in this country because we have a lot of force and pressure against us. We're not supported, is it like by our government, but then the people don't care. They're like, yes, the small group of people who are the government are like, but then the general population is like, this is amazing and it works. So who cares what they say? So we're very blessed, right? Very busy.
Absolutely.
But yes.
Well, thank you so much, Leiah. And our listeners don't know this, but for them, they're going to have to wait a week to get your next episode. But me and you just have to have a quick pee break and a drink, and then we're going to record a incredible episode on immunization options. So I'm sorry, everyone that has to wait a week, but thank you so much, Leiah, for coming on today.
You're
I really
so
appreciate
welcome. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for hosting this podcast. I know it takes you a lot of time and energy and finance, so I really appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure. And thank you for your generous donation as well. I really, in the past, and I couldn't believe it when I saw your name pop up. You might not even remember, but I saw your name pop up. I'm like, oh, it's just the best thing when you get all the support. So thank you.
Yeah, you're amazing.